All right, welcome aboard, everybody. I'm called Doobyis. This is called Fly in Formation. It's a spin-off of my mix show where I play independent hip-hop every week. That show is called After the Smoke is Clear or At Sick Radio. I'll put the link up there. You can find that mixcloud.com/Doobyis. I try to just play as much independent music as I can every week for people and just kind of spread love and spread the spotlight from scene to scene across the country. So, yeah. A lot of the time, though, on After the Smoke is Clear, it's pretty Alberta-centric. Right now, I'm based out of Lethbridge. I have roots up in Edmonton. I was up there for kind of a decade before I moved down here. Did a lot of shows and kind of met a lot of people in the hip-hop scene up there. And one of those people who I met up in Edmonton is joining me today, my good homie DJ Doobyis. A lot of the time these interviews are kind of, you know, a little bit more planned than this one's going to be. But I figured when Doobyis asked when his interview was coming up, I might as well just do it right now because we're both chilling. So we might as well start up and drop an interview, just kind of impromptu here in the afternoon. But hey, there we go. Yeah, the Scratcher Yeg plate. What are those things called? Plate cover or fucking plate mat? Something? DJ mat?
There's slippy mats, so you can rewind the record nice.
Right. I knew it was some DJ shit. Dude, you're the reason that I never call myself a DJ. You and you know, a few other guys that I met up in Edmonton or whatever, but people always want to call me DJ Doobyis when they're, you know, sending in drops or whatever for the show. Artists want to call me DJ Doobyis, and I'm like, nah, I'm really just an MC who hosts a show, guys. I put this shit together, but I've been around too many guys who are nice with turntables to call myself a DJ, and DJ Doobyis definitely one of them. So props to you there, dude.
Much respect, brother.
Yeah, dude.
You're still DJing though.
I mean, you're right. Technically, it is like one of the DJ skills, and yeah, a guy with a radio show is a DJ, I guess. But in the hip hop sense, I feel like what I do is not really the full package of what a DJ is, you know. Like I took a lot of inspiration from like what DJs were doing with mixtapes, kind of through the 90s and 2000s or whatever. I think more so than they do now normally, but like with a bunch of different artists featured on the same mixtape just to kind of highlight new music or whatever. That's what I try to do with After the Smoke is Clear every week and shit. And honestly, man, like I remember even having this conversation with you like when I lived up there about like, why doesn't anybody do that? How come there's, you know, I think I was kind of trying to convince you to do that, to put mixtapes together or whatever, because like,
oh, if someone buys them.
Well, I guess, yeah, that's the truth. Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, but online's different now.
Well, it's different, but still nobody's buying anything. There's still no money coming in for a lot of these artists, I don't think, right? Like, some artists manage to make a little bit of money selling some merch or whatever. If you get like 1 million fucking spins on something on Spotify, you might be able to pay your light bill off of it, but like...
That's the thing, right? And
it's even then, it's not quit your job money. Unless you got a song every week doing it.
Yeah, imagine
it's not quit your job money. Well, but there are guys who do it. That's you know, that's like a grind that some of these guys are on right now. Like there's an artist, Toronto-based guy, Dylan Ponders, who's been dropping a track a week for God, I don't know, it's longer than a year. I think he was just posting about how he's gonna set the world record for fucking most posts, weekly posts, most weekly, like, you know, song releases. But yeah, so I mean, if you're doing something like that and they're all getting traction and getting stream numbers, might be getting checks off of stream numbers, but typically the artists that I've been talking to have just like laughed at the idea of getting any money off of streams, you know. I think, well, I don't know if it was Word Burglar or somebody, I don't know, somebody has a bar on their album about how like they could sell one CD and get more money than they'll ever see off streams or something along those lines, right? Like selling merch physically is where it actually gets somebody paid. You know, though, man, like I I do have like a set of questions and shit that I can run us through.
Yeah, let's do it, bro.
A lot of these I just already know the answer for. How did you choose your name?
Well, it was my
I just feel silly asking.
it was my gambling addicted MC that I used to hang out with. We'd go to the West Edmonton Mall casino. My buddy Bill, otherwise known as A-OK, MC A-OK, man. Like everything's A-OK, bro.
Word.
Right? So he loved gambling. And he loved gambling so much that he'd hook up with chicks that had lots of cash and they'd pay for him. And I was like, damn, this guy's got some hustle going on here. They don't mind giving him all this cash.
He's doing something right, yeah.
But that was back in that was in the, what? Just about 89.
That was so long ago that there's another prominent Edmonton rapper named A-OK since that guy.
That is correct.
There's now been two A-OKs. The second one, I think, is now more of a journalist than a rapper, but he's still out there,
I think rapping helped him become a journalist.
Yeah, I agree. And I think probably, still influences a guy's life one way or the other. Once you are hip-hop, you're going to be hip-hop, I think.
Yeah, so that's the story. He liked the dice. To say, we're going to call you DJ Dice. I was like, yeah, sure, man. That's cool. Roll the dice.
Do you have new music that you're going to be dropping soon?
Yes, finally.
Coming up. Dope.
Well, I'm in my 50s, and I don't have an album up because I've been busy with life.
Word. You've been involved in a lot of different albums over the years, though, right? Like, what was the first album that you were on at all? Like, what was the first time you saw your music pressed physically in any way? Or even on a tape or whatever, if you're putting out tapes and shit.
We did this. There was a contest, and I'm not sure if it was Western Canada or all of Canada, but it was out of Toronto, and it was the We United to Do This album that came out, and it was a contest, and every province of all the rappers, this is in 89,
right,
of all the rappers that were in the game, sent music in to see if they could win this contest to be on this album that these Toronto guys were doing. So it just so happens the only people that won from Alberta was A-OK, the MC that I DJ for it, and this other guy, Andre. And we're the only ones that got. They're like, okay, yeah, you guys won out of Alberta. And you're like, holy cow, wow. So then British Columbia had whatever. I'm not sure if Saskatchewan had one or Manitoba had one, but the Ontario guys, they had a whole bunch of people from Ontario. They weren't on Much Music, and it was a big deal. And that was the first time I ever heard my scratching. Because, we sent them a song, and it was, man, it had to be about 7 minutes long, I swear to God. Because we didn't know. We were just kids. We're making rap. We're like, hey, 7 minutes, that sounds about right. 3 verses, all this scratching. Well, they compressed it. They super compressed it to about 3 minutes, and half my scratching disappeared. So when I heard it, I was like, hey, wait a minute, what the hell? They kind of took a lot of my scratching out.
Yeah, they just kept a couple verses in the chorus or whatever on there, and yeah,
that's right. And
made the radio edit.
They remade the beat. It wasn't even our beat. You're like, what?
But okay, wait. So I was just gonna say, did you send them stem files? But that was long before the day of sending people stem files, right? So
the thing that I don't know was back in those days, like my mind was just, oh yeah, hey Chris, you want to put some scratches? Oh, okay. I didn't even know what it was for until it actually came out. I was like, what? You guys did? I didn't even know. No one said shit. It was one of those deals,
So, but how the hell did they remix it because you would have sent it to them with a beat behind it, right?
Well, maybe they sent them just the acapella because there was no hair on the beat in the background at all.
Right, so they might have sent them the whole package where they'd get the beat, the acapella, and the...
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Right.
I mean, back then, I was, you got to admit, brother, I was 19, 18 years old. I was kind of ignorant. I didn't really know much about the music and the mixing and the mastering. That all came after the fact, but yeah, but this did happen. And we were like, oh, wow. And I mean, the one thing that I
So if
think it
you,
was the same year or the year before, we were on CJSR, the university station in Edmonton,
right.
and Bill, he had a radio show. This was in 88, 89, 90. He had One Nation Under a Groove.
So
And it was every Saturday nights or something like this on CJSR. And from that radio station, I mean, I can go on forever about all kinds of stuff, but from that radio station is how everyone here started listening to hip hop, in my opinion.
yeah, no, this is exactly what I want you to go on about. Like when I talk about you, I always say that, like, one story I remember you telling me was about you having a show back in the day, and fucking late 80s or whatever in Edmonton, and how that blew my mind that, like, there was a hip hop show on the university station in Edmonton. Because to me, like, when I think of late 80s, I think there was probably hip hop, in New York popping. There was probably hip hop in some of the big American cities on and popping, but I didn't really think that, like, it would have gotten out to, the middle of nowhere, frankly, the furthest north city in the world with fucking, what is it, 1 million people, the furthest north in the world or some shit like that. Like, Edmonton's really out in the middle of nowhere. If there was no oil around us, none of this would be up here, right? We'd all be further south living in California with everybody else. But yeah, that blew my mind, thinking that, like, you guys were, because like you say, before the internet, I mean, you've told me this, so I'm just going to ask you, but, like, what was the process for you to get new hip hop when you're living in Edmonton in the late 80s?
Okay, well, let's see. For instance, Much Music came out in, like, I think 87, 86. But when it came out, there was still no hip hop.
The Rap City wasn't one of the startup.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. So my good friend Sean here, because we listened to so much CJSR, there was one show on there in particular that was called Catch the Beat.
Yeah.
And at the end of his shows, he always said, records provided by Sound Connection. And I was like, well, Sound Connection, that sounds like a place I'd want to go and have a look. So when I went there, man, I was 16 years old, man. I go to a record store and lo and behold, they got all this hip hop rap music. And I was like, what the fuck? I was in shock. And my friend Sean, he had already been buying records before me. So when I met him, he had a shitload of records, like a lot of records, man, like a lot. I think you had a job or something. You used to go work somewhere, get all this money and spend it on vinyl. We just vinyl. That's all we gave a fuck about. And because I started DJing, well, all I give a fuck about record players, mixers, needles, make sure everything works, speakers. So I had the shit, he had the raps. Because I started rapping with Sean.
Right.
When I was like, when I first started doing this shit, I started DJing for Sean here. And he's sitting right here, but he don't want to be seen because fuck you motherfuckers. No, I'm just joking, bro.
No, that's DVL. We've worked together too, man. I mean, on an album that you produced and I was rapping on the first Doobs and Dice project, we did a track that has DVL and Touch featured on it. Fucking, we sampled Game of Thrones completely illegally. But it is what it is. That track's out there.
We just love sampling. It's the most funnest thing to do.
Since, like, I remember when we were working on those projects, we were worried a little bit about the sampling and whether you could or couldn't put it out. I've since come to realize that, like, you got to get pretty big before anybody gives a fuck. Just from doing the radio show, from doing After the Smoke is Clear, I hear so much music from across the country every week where they're sampling movies, they're sampling fucking Jay-Z's voice, you know, they're sampling just the most noticeable, recognizable shit that you can possibly grab to sample. They're probably doing it straight off of YouTube. It's just the new era of music. Like, if you're 20 years old right now, it doesn't even cross your mind. You just go grab that shit off of YouTube, and it's just like making a new meme. You're gonna just load that up and use whoever's voice cut, whoever's song, whatever, sample the hell out of it, and nobody even gets like copyright struck. You know, like, you got to be pretty big before anybody even cares. Yeah, I'm playing all sorts of music.
In the 90s, like, I mean, rap, hip hop, whatever, was hardcore sample based when it came out.
Word.
Everything was a sample. Everything. But by the 90s, they were like, hey, wait a minute. You guys, we need to make money off you guys. You guys are doing this illegally. So this little business started where
it was a few different albums, like, really pushed it over the edge, right? Like, it was like Paul's Boutique and fucking
of course,
one of the De La Soul albums that I can't think of the name of off the top of my head, but both of them got sued to high hell, and it's why De La Soul's music still only just hit streaming, because they were still clearing samples fucking 30 years later. You know, so it is an important thing to do once you blow up, clear those samples. But
you know what the good thing about that is? At least I've heard all the De La Soul, because I have all the vinyls.
Yeah, right.
But the streaming, so this is the funny thing about having vinyls. It's like, these guys think they got all the music, but it's like, bro, do you have this single with this particular remix?
Well, with vinyls, you probably have the acapella, you probably have the beat, you know, or at least for a lot of singles and stuff, right? Like, that's just the way they're released.
Some super rare something or other that I won't even play it online, because it's just, you know, it's not online. So
yeah, and I mean, it probably shouldn't be, really. Like,
it is what I figure as well.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you're a deep hip hop head and you know of these vinyls, like, that's what I figure anyways. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Could be.
Well, it's a different school of thought, right? Like, it's from an era when you actually had to go dig at a record store to find those samples or whatever. Whereas now,
it was brutal.
Like I said, people can rip anything in the world off of YouTube, right? I mean, not quite anything in the world, like you had just finished saying, that there is still some stuff people can't find, but it's all right at your fingertips. So you don't have to go buy an album and search through for a sample. You can sit at home in your underwear and search through samples all night, right? So it's a completely different game, man. But the other thing I think that's changed, because you said, like, in the 90s, people actually were more concerned with not sampling. Like, can you remember, like, independent artists being worried about sampling? Or not so much?
Yes.
Was it always kind of the same mentality as now, where it's fuck it?
The mentality was this. It's like, if you did want to progress your career and you really, really, really wanted to do this as life, well, then you had to get a band, because you can't use samples, and everybody knew that from the get-go.
Yeah.
So you couldn't go and do touring with sample-based music you made, because, well, someone's going to say, hey, did you get clear? Someone's going to ask. Someone's going to try to get money out of you.
Yeah.
So what these hip-hop guys started doing, they're like, well, I got a drummer now. Now I got a guitarist. Now I got a keyboardist. Well, hey, sounds like you got a band.
Yeah.
So they started going, that's the way,
It brings something to a live show too, right? Like, I've always said that audiences around here love a band, right? Because they're used to seeing rock music performed or whatever. So there's still a lot of people around here who think that, like, that makes it more authentic if there's a band on stage playing or whatever, right? Which, you know, isn't something I believe, but is something that I think in Alberta a lot of people still subscribe to. And, like, so I've always said, yeah, these guys that have bands, whether they're bringing the artists in just to play something and then they sample that, or you know, actually jamming with full live bands, I think it has given some people a leg up for sure. And I mean, it's made some dope music too, right? I can enjoy some hip hop over a live band or whatever, but can also, yeah, can also do what I normally do and listen to old school boom bap. That's pretty much my wheelhouse, dude. Yeah.
I have a hard time listening to new rap music, man.
Yeah. Is it? Do you feel like the production has changed? Because I mean, there's still a bunch of producers out there who make kind of that true school sound, right? Like,
yeah. But I mean, it seems like as I'm getting older, my time is limited.
Word.
And there's so many things to do that I don't get to go, hey, let's look for some new boom bap, because I don't have time.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's something I like asking people, man, is like, when you're listening to music, do you listen to only hip hop, or are you listening to kind of outside genres, like if you're on drive time or whatever?
I mean, I'm a trucker, so I drive a truck, and lately I've been listening to like all these DJ Premier mixtapes that I downloaded years ago that I hadn't got around to listening to them. And finally I'm getting around to them. And I'm like, oh, damn, I didn't know I had all this good music. I mean, I knew I had some, but I didn't listen to all of them because I just never got around.
It's a lot, man. It's a lot. Life is busy, right?
Fuck is it ever? I mean, it's nonstop busyness. As you get older, I mean, when you're young, fuck, music, I could do it all day, all night. I mean, shit, we went to a studio once and we recorded for 24 fucking hours.
Yeah.
That seemed pretty simple. It wasn't that hard to do.
Wow, shit. Yeah. I mean, yeah, man. We did that like 10 years ago or whatever, something like that.
It was fun.
Yeah, man, that was super dope. Out at that place called Nimbus Recording School out there. We had a homie, Trevor Tubes. Big ups Tubes, yeah. Because he got us in there because he was taking school there or whatever. So we got to just book out super nice studio and do some work there. Have you been in other big studios before? Like, have you over the years worked in studios around Edmonton or anything even? Like, what's your favorite recording memory? Let's ask that. Over all the years, what's your favorite studio memory?
Well, I don't know.
Or maybe not even necessarily favorite, because that makes them against each other. But like, just fucking, I don't know. You got any dope studio memories from the '90s? Do you remember working on anybody's album in some studio?
Well, I worked on a lot of people's shit, but I mean, as for favorite studios, I mean, all the studios I went to, they were pretty much like, you know, Buddy in the basement there with his computer and
the home studio setup.
I mean, to go to like a real nice professional one, I don't have any really memories of going to a big studio. I think we went once.
Was anybody recording in studios? Like, were there other guys in the Edmonton hip hop scene who through the '90s were recording in, you know, a professional studio like that you were kind of like, oh man, those guys are doing it. Look at them go.
There was a few kicking around in those days. But the thing was that I found out was like, you could go as a nobody and go, hey man, here's the cash, record me. But from what I gathered, it was more on, hey, this is my buddy.
So much comes down to relationships. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think even if you are paying that hourly wage at a studio, you want to try to build a relationship with whoever's actually going to be doing the engineering, whoever's actually going to do the mix. Because if there's no sort of relationship, you're going to get probably a lower quality of work. You shouldn't, but you probably will. I think somebody will work harder for you if they actually feel like you're good people or whatever.
But I mean, all the studios we ever went to were just like basement studios.
Weird.
Pretty much.
Did you guys drop albums throughout the 90s? Like, what crews were you part of through the 90s?
Well, see, like me and that guy Bill, like the AOK, we never really per se dropped an album,
Right.
but we were on that Toronto thing.
Right.
But after the '90s, it just kind of nothing happened.
Well, and you do shows and shit, right? Like more than drop albums, I guess.
Not really. I did shows in like 88, 89,
Okay.
but then it just kind of stopped. But then by like 95-ish, I hooked up with this group. They were calling themselves 118.
Word.
So I was like, oh, I knew some of these dudes. I'm like, oh, I know these dudes from the old school days. They're younger than me, but nonetheless, this guy had a studio. And I was like, oh, okay, I was curious. So I went, talked to them, and yeah, I started DJing for them, just putting scratches on their songs.
Yeah, word. Okay.
So if you listen to I guess would be the first 118 album, you'll hear scratching by me.
Dope. Okay.
Right? I mean, if you listen to your intro of your own show, you'll hear scratching by me.
Fuck yeah, we will. Yeah, shouts to you for that. I should have said that when I introed you, for sure.
Right?
I've definitely given you shouts on the show many times where I say that.
I wasn't ready to just spit it out, but yeah. So, I mean, if you talk to people in Edmonton and you say DJ Dice, so you'll be like, oh, that guy, yeah, that guy. I'm on everybody's shit.
Well, I just assumed you were doing shows through the 90s because, like, through the 2000s, at least the second half, like 2005, when I moved up there you were out doing shows in the community. And until, like, aren't you still out doing shows in the community right now? You just DJ'd Thug Shell's shit a couple months ago, didn't you?
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. But
that's all the time I have.
Yeah, that still counts, man. In a small scene like that, doing a show here and there is, I mean, all anybody's doing, really. Right?
Well, you're as good as your last show.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe you're as good as your last album or your last hit, or I don't know. There's a bunch of different takes on that one, but it depends who you're trying to impress, I guess. That saying too, right? To me, I don't really give a fuck about my last hit or whatever, right? Like
going back to music, like what me and Sean have been working on, or what Sean and I have been working on. Well, pretty much Sean's the mastermind. I'm just the kind of guy that just, here, put a scratch here. Oh yeah, sounds awesome. So anyways, this guy's music is like, I don't know, man. I don't want to offend anybody, but there's some super, super deep lyrics about life, the system, and a lot of real stuff, that'll kind of really touch you.
Yeah, man, I've been looking forward to hearing it since I don't know heard you guys start working on it. I mean, it's been a while. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It's kind of like a Immortal Technique kind of a feel. Because when you hear the lyrics, you're like, wow, okay, I see what's going on.
A lot of people are afraid of an Immortal Technique feel, but I'm not one of them, man. I like an Immortal Technique feel. I mean,
this is the tip we've been on for many, many years.
Word.
It's hard to get an audience because, I mean.
So have you been making beats for any of these tracks, or who's doing the production for it? Because DVL makes beats himself too, right?
He does. He has some songs, but ever since we hooked up with Doobyis, he's got the beats, man. I really like his beats. They're fabulous. Hey, what do you think?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Doobyis is dope. So Deez is doing most of the production then? Most of the beats are his?
Yeah.
No. Most of the stuff is ours.
Most of the stuff is the beats that I made for Sean, that Sean picked the samples and whatnot.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah. Dope.
Right. Kind of like how when we made music, you're like, I want to hear this, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, just hang out and make something and
exactly.
Yeah.
Sean will just bring his beat over and I'll put the scratches on, then he'll go to Deez's wax and then he'll put the raps on and then blah 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 blah.
Hell yeah. Man, I miss that booth that you're sitting beside there. Just seeing that booth on camera. I missed that booth. We built that
That's
fucking
there,
thing,
bro.
and then I moved away, bro. I gotta come back up there and put in
I've
put
been
in some
thinking of
work in there.
taking it down.
For real? Shit.
Well, it takes a lot of space, and I haven't used it in forever.
Just gotta start using it.
Wow. I know.
But yeah, no, I hear it. Everybody's got their own setup to record their own
Maybe I can
vocals at home in their underwear.
Maybe I can release a sound effects CD or something with the booth.
Yeah, weird.
I don't know, bro.
As you take it down, anyways, the sound effects of that. So, yeah, what else do I normally want to ask people? Here's something very vague. That's going to get a little bit philosophical on you. What is it that drives you to make music throughout your life? But like, because not everybody decides to make music. So, just open-ended question: what do you think has driven you to make music? Like, why have you done it?
Well, I think there's only one reason. Because, well, it keeps me out of trouble, but at the same time, it's like you're as you're coming up, you hear hip hop, right? And you're like, at some point, you're like, well, I can do better than that, but I don't have a drum machine. So you're like, damn. It's like, I know I can do better than that. I know I can make a better beat, but I don't have money to get a drum machine. So I'm like, damn. So a lot of years in your head, you're thinking, man, I got all these ideas to make stuff, but I don't have any money. Right. So, you know, in life, it's like, next thing you know, you become an adult and you have money, you have a job, and you're like, damn, you know what? I'm going to go out and buy a sampler. So I went out and bought an MPC 2000 XL. It's right here.
That's dope, man, because a lot of people would say, you know, like you see memes about how, like, you know, millennials are out buying Super Nintendos right now because the nostalgia from their childhood or whatever. But that's pretty much what you just said, except about music. I think, yeah, more people should play more samplers instead of Nintendo, maybe. But
yeah, but I got a quick story for you about video games.
Okay.
So, 1981. I was at school. My friend comes to school and he's like, yo, my dad just bought me the Atari. And I was like, damn. I'm like, you got an Atari? I was like, damn. So we went to his house. We played Atari until my thumb just about broke off. Because it had those weird joysticks things. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've played the original, like Pong we're talking about, right? Just two paddles and ball bounce back and forth. So yeah.
I was what, 81? I was 11 years old, man. So I went home and I was like, Dad, can you get me the Atari? And I swear, before I finished my sentence, he was like, no. And I was like, oh. So I was kind of like, you can't really force my dad to, hey, man, come on.
And so that was how he felt about buying music gear for you, too, I take it.
Well, no, but the story's this. It's a funny story. So he said no. I was like, all right. So I never started this video game thing. So 11, 12, so 13, this is a couple of years past, 13 years old. It was about 83, 84. I see these guys breakdancing at school. And I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? What is this shit? Then I seen it on TV and I was like, oh, damn. Like, this is a thing that they're doing in the States. And I thought, hey, this is, you know, it's picking up because you kept seeing it on TV and shit.
Yeah.
So by 84, this movie, Beat Street, comes out. And you saw the commercial and you're like, holy fuck. I'm like, I gotta see this shit. Like, what the fuck? So by 84, I was 14 now. So I seen Beat Street. I swear I got brainwashed. I must have just got brainwashed that hip hop. And I was from then, and it just started. That's how it started. It was some weird shit.
Was it like, what did your parents think of hip hop? at that kind of era? Like,
Oh fuck!
when you were running around doing it, was it like the devil is inside of you, or like, okay,
They didn't. No, they didn't like it. It all sounds the same.
yeah.
My mom used to say, "It all sounds the same."
So they weren't encouraging you to go make hip hop,
Oh hell no!
right?
But the funny thing is, in '86, I met this dude. I was what, 86? Shit, I was in grade 8. And I met this dude. He was really into this music. What the hell was it called? New wave, new wave music. And it was all from England. And he knew a friend that had turntables. And I heard a mix once and I was like, holy fuck, this doesn't even sound like, I could tell it doesn't sound right. So, anyways, a couple of months later, my friend says, hey, my friend's selling these turntables. And I'm like,
The new wave
really?
era was over, so he was done with those things.
Oh no, sorry. It was the mixer. Sorry, I got the other way around. I got it mixed up. It was the mixer. My other friend had the turntable. So, but the funny thing was, I went up to my dad and I'm like, Dad, could you lend me like $150 to buy turntables? He looked at me. His hand went in his pocket. 150 here, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, so when I asked you for an Atari, you said no. But I asked you to buy fucking used turntables, you don't say fuck all, and you give me $150.
Yeah.
Like, all right. So I went and bought them. And that's when it started because see, well, I'll rewind a little bit. From 83 or 84, we breakdanced for about 2 years. And then it died out in Edmonton. Then I was like, fuck. And then I said, fuck it, I'm gonna be a DJ. And it just came together. Sean had the vinyls, I had the turntables. Holy fuck, man, it was cool. So I was like, yeah. So we just kept her going. Kept buying more records, blah, 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 blah. And then it turned into, what the fuck was it? I think the first show I did it wasn't with Sean, it was with Bill. We opened for Ice-T. Ice-T came here in 1988. And he played at the old Expo Center at Klondike Days. There used to be an old one. They knocked it down. It's gone now. But that's the one we played at.
Yeah, yo, can I pause this for a second? So in 1988, when somebody, with the stature of Ice-T, fame of Ice-T comes through Edmonton, what did that look like? Did he, like, because now, if somebody's coming through Edmonton, they're going to be locked away in their green room. The openers might get a chance to kind of meet the guy for a second or few. They might get to build a relationship if they know the promoter who brought the guy in or whatever. What did that look like in 1988 when somebody like Ice-T came through? Like, did you get to meet him?
Well, I mean, like, I never really per se met him. I seen him in person. I was not 5 feet away from him.
Right.
It seemed like,
but he's got like a tour bus and he's kind of,
well, no, I mean, it was weird times back then. It was like, if you had the balls to go up to him and talk to him, he'd talk to you, but I didn't.
right.
So I was because I was a young kid and it was a lot to process at that age.
Fucking Ice-T, man. Yeah.
Well, it was Ice-T, but I mean, like, I was brought up sheltered.
Sure.
So you didn't really know, like, all these guys they were towering over me. These were some tall dudes, man. And I was like, wow.
Word.
Plus when you hear them talk, I'm like, these guys, they don't talk like us. They talk very different English. I didn't understand. Like, I thought, US, I thought they talk like us, but so I learned a lot of things. You had to learn them quick. And the Ice-T show, I mean, I just got sucked into it. Boom. And you're like, wow. Because I mean, he came here twice and we opened for him twice. So, it was weird.
So did he have his own DJ? He didn't need a DJ?
No,
probably would have had his own DJ. But one of you guys didn't get the DJ for him? Yeah.
No, they would never do that. Any show I've ever been to, it was never like that. They always had their own equipment, their own everything. I'd have to bring my equipment. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
most definitely.
Word, man. What else can I ask you about here? Oh, here's one. Do you have more fun on stage or more fun in a studio?
Well, yeah, but a stage thing is like, don't make mistakes. And if you do, oh well. A studio thing, it's like, let's do it again. Oh no, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. Until you get it right.
Yeah.
But when you're on the stage, you kind of want to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've made many mistakes on the stage.
No.
That's just the nature of the doing something live.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
And I mean, especially let's say back in the what was it, late '90s, the DJ battle scene started to really come up. So I started doing a lot of those things. I went to Calgary, blah blah blah.
Your audio just went weird there for a second. Something changed?
Can you hear me?
Oh man. So Dice and I have several albums together actually. We've worked a lot over the past 15 years or so. And I met Dice at a kind of meeting of the minds that would happen on a weekly basis where we would sit around and talk about KRS-One's book, The Gospel of Hip Hop. And I met a lot of good people through that. It was called Cypher 5. So shouts to everybody who was involved with that. Yeah, Dice was probably the strongest relationship that I built there out of that. And we, I think, kind of just started hanging out on a weekly basis. Maybe after those meetings and kind of going and hanging out making music. Like we were talking about there, we would kind of just find a sample and start putting a beat together and hang out in his basement where he's sitting right now. That booth that he's beside, we built with our own hands with the help of a friend named Lorian. Yeah, it was a dope time in life where I got to focus a lot on music. Obviously I was working full time as well and stuff too, but that was something that every week I would mark on the schedule and make sure that I had in the planner to get over to Dice's place to just, hang out, smoke up, and make music. And, so after not too long, we had pretty much a full album already together, and we did Doobyis and Dice. I want to say maybe that was 2011 or ish, maybe 2012, something like that. But then just 2020, I think it was 2020. We did Doobyis and Dice 2, just with a bunch of music, and that one we didn't really get to put together, but it was a bunch of music that I had kind of been working on over the years, and we just kind of put some bells and whistles on and sent files back and forth, and Dice ended up doing cuts on a lot of the songs, and most of the beats were his beats as well for that album, but yeah. I was just talking about our two albums there and how we met.
Just trying to get comfortable here.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. Now we can see. Now we can see the turntables better too. But yeah, I was just talking about how we actually linked up because of the Gospel of Hip Hop and fucking going to sit around in a circle of people where we'd read a passage of that and then talk about it and shit.
Yeah, we used to do that.
Yeah, that was a dope little cipher that we had there or whatever. I liked that, man. I've thought about actually starting one of those locally, something along those lines. Maybe not only based on that one book, but just kind of based on just hip hop talk, because I think it's important in kind of community building or whatever for people to be able to chop it up a little bit and share their ideas and thoughts and get to know one another and build those relationships. Because, like, you know, we got 2 albums out of it, right? We've done 2 Doobs and Dice albums just because we started hanging out and making music together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that was that hip hop thing we used to go to, the hip hop circle.
Yeah.
That was a book by KRS-One, right?
Right, yeah, the Gospel of Hip Hop, right? KRS-One's Gospel of Hip Hop. Yeah.
I remember you said something to me once when I first met you. You were like, because you were from Red Deer, right?
No, I'm from Camrose originally, south of Edmonton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So when I first met you, you're from Camrose, and you told me, you're like, you didn't think anyone else did hip hop.
Well, I didn't think anybody else was reading that book specifically. I didn't think anybody else, was kind of like doing it that way. Was thinking about it that way.
But then you came to Edmonton, and you're like, holy fuck, there's guys here that have been doing hip hop since the fucking early fucking 80s.
Yeah. And I mean,
how did that make you feel? Like, how did that make you feel, bro?
Man, so like growing up in Camrose, like I knew that there were some rappers in Edmonton, right? You know, just like from internet presence, or I don't know from what, even seeing posters or some shit when I was up there. But I was aware that there were some rappers in Edmonton, that there was some sort of scene. But yeah, definitely like I told you back in the day, I'll tell you again now, there wasn't anybody else who was like into hip hop on a cultural level, I guess I could say. There were people who like Dr. Dre and Eminem and Snoop Dogg around me growing up, you know what I mean? But once you started playing stuff that wasn't quite so like pop inspired or pop flavored with like catchy beats that you can dance to, you know, like if you tried to play Wu-Tang or Nas or, you know, just East Coast shit more, I guess. You really just lost a lot of people. So yeah, I wasn't used to being around hip hop people, and then moving to Edmonton, like I knew that there were you know, that there were people making hip hop and participating in hip hop in Edmonton for sure. But specifically seeing the posts about that Gospel of Hip Hop circle, I was like, oh, whoa, I thought I was probably the only person anywhere who had fucking read this book. You know, I mean, exaggeration, but like, that's a weird fucking book, honestly. Like, I didn't think many people were picking up the Gospel of Hip Hop to thumb through 500 pages of hip hop philosophy or whatever, right? Which, like, they should be. It's a dope book, and, you know, is a positive thing in a lot of people's lives. I think I recommend that book to people still. If they're, you know, kids who I'm kind of recording or whatever, and they're coming through the studio here, like, I'll tell them about it and tell them to pick it up or show them it. You know, I've still got it sitting on a stand over there. So yeah, it definitely like has helped to shape my opinions of hip hop and maybe like what hip hop should be. But at the same time, it's also helped me to kind of open my mind to the idea that hip hop doesn't have to be any one thing, right? Like that maybe there isn't a should be, you know, like that it's certainly not my fucking opinion that matters on what is or isn't hip hop. So I try to, like, when you were talking about not liking a lot of new music, I find a lot of new music that still has what feels like an authentic spirit. When you listen to it, it feels like it's people making art. You know what I mean? This still feels like it's people who are, you know, they want to rhyme, so they do. And maybe the style that they're rhyming over now has changed a little bit, but I've definitely tried to become more open-minded and find the gems in every different section of hip hop, because there are dope lyricists who are rapping over trap beats. You know,
oh no, that's right.
And there are dope lyricists who are rapping over traditional boom bap stuff still, right? That are putting out new music still. So it's just a matter of digging till you find it or whatever. But
that's true. And I haven't dug.
That's why I try to do AtSick though, man. That's why I send you the link all the time, right? I feel annoying as fuck when I pop into everybody I know's fucking feed and be like, yo, check out the new AtSick or whatever. But it's because if I can't get my homies who I know love hip-hop and live hip-hop to listen to it, how the fuck am I going to get anybody else to listen to it? You know what I mean? Like, how can I expect that there's anybody else out there who's ever going to listen to it if I can't convince guys who love hip-hop to listen to it? So I started by I'm going to make a show that I think people who love hip-hop would love. And so that's what I try to do or whatever. But, like, man, it's like pulling teeth getting people to click a link or fucking click like on a post or whatever. Like, everybody's too cool, man. Everybody's too cool.
If you're a mob, they listen to you right away. But if you're Joe Blow, they're like, well,
I mean, I guess, yeah.
I mean, we have good music, bro. The albums we made are good music. The fuck if I could sell anyone to my friends.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, shit made good music, bro.
And there's something that I've seen floating around lately that's like, don't expect your friends to support you, you know? And this isn't me like I'm not just sending it to random old high school homies or whatever. I'm sending it to people who I know love hip hop and make hip hop. And I'm knocking on those doors consistently because it's a show for heads who feel like you were just saying that it's too fucking tough to keep up. There are 60,000 tracks that hit Spotify every single fucking day.
Holy shit.
Yeah, 60,000 new tracks. So
every day.
Every single fucking day, man. So you know, like you were talking about, like in the 90s it was tough for people to put music out. So like people would put in a lot of effort before they'd release something. Now it's $15 to get your song to Spotify once you've recorded it. So you send me a beat, I can jump on it. We can send it to Spotify tomorrow. You know, if I can write some lyrics and record lyrics to it tonight, put a mix on it, send it to Spotify half mix tomorrow, and it can be on Spotify, right? So like that's how much it's changed throughout, to the point where now it's democratized to where everybody can be releasing music, right? So it's no longer like
it used to be.
Like it used to be, right? So now when I tell somebody, you know, in casual conversation, you know, my wife tells somebody, oh yeah, my husband raps. They look at me like, oh, he thinks he's a rapper. Like this guy, oh, he's a rapper. But it's like, no, I'm just some fucking guy who has $15, so I put songs online. You know what I mean? Like the same way that people paint in their basement or whatever else. This is the art that I like to make. So like it's fucking right next to free to make it at this point. I've bought all the gear over the years, so now all I gotta do is sit back and write and rap and throw shit online. So you know, to me that's where the purity of it comes in. And I think that there are still a lot of people who look at it like that because the technology has come so far that it's pushed it to a point where everybody should be a fucking rapper. Like, you don't express yourself online? Why? You know, you don't have a voice? You don't want to have a voice in society? How come? Like, fucking say something. You know, everybody's got thoughts. Put them out to the world is kind of my opinion. But I'm somebody who's been training to flap my big mouth for 20 years, so I get it that not everybody is quite that ready to or whatever, but I feel like everybody should be expressing ourselves in some way. It's healthy, it's therapeutic, right?
At this point, we got at least, like me and my homie, we got at least 3 albums worth.
Yeah.
I got an album, and it's a scratch album. I got one. I started on the next one, but it's a slow process from lots of work. So I want to have like just like you said, you got the means to let people hear new hip hop that artists, I mean, like you said, the creativity hip hop.
Yeah.
I'm not going to really call myself new hip hop, because if you hear what I made, you'll be like, oh, wow, this guy's got samples from like 1950 to freaking off your favorite rap record.
Yeah. But dude, there's still people making you know, I could name a handful of producers across the board, whether it's DJ Moves in Halifax or Fresh Kills in Toronto, or, you know, there are still producers who are making the Dirty Sample in Calgary. You know, there are guys making hip hop that's in that lane still, and there's no reason that fucking it can't be you or it can't be anybody else who makes that music. I just encourage people, put that music out. You know, we're in an era now where. Yeah, you might as well get it to Spotify. Why not?
We'll have to start sending you singles as we make them.
Yeah, that's the other reason I started doing AtSick, is because now that it's like that, singles are what come out, right? Every week there's new singles from different artists, right? So I follow. You asked me how I keep up. It's because I follow. I haven't looked recently, but I'm gonna bet 500 or 600 different Canadian hip hop artists on Spotify specifically. Wow. So every week between that 500 or 600, anything that any of them release gets put on a playlist for me. It gets put on the new release playlist or whatever, release radar it's called. So then I take a look at that, and there's some American artists I follow too. So like it'll put their releases on there too when they come out. So I take a look at that and kind of weed through what I actually want to listen to, and then every week I listen to maybe 2 or 3, 4 hours worth of hip hop of new music that I've put on a playlist. So yeah, like you end up every week with brand new releases that are that fucking many of them. But if you listen to them in that format, they're fucking scrambled, right? Like it goes from a song that is fight music that makes you want to go punch your neighbor, you know, to some song about Buddy's dead mom who just fucking died and he's gonna have a cry on it, right? And you're trying to listen to it as you drive down the road, and it's like, this doesn't feel right. It feels like I'm listening to 1,000 different singles on shuffle, because you fucking are. But
I see.
Then I take the ones that I like, buy them, put them into my iTunes, and arrange them into playlists that are an hour long that actually make some sort of fucking sense. And this is what I was talking about with the mixtape DJs, right? Like the DJ Clues, the fucking Funkmaster Flex, 60 minutes of funk type tapes, right? Like all the way through, man. Who Kid and Green Lantern, and there's all these legendary mixtape DJs. I just feel like Canada has enough talent that we deserve that. We deserve somebody putting together those fucking mixtapes every week.
Wait a second, didn't we have a mixtape guy that used to make mixtapes in Toronto that became...
Well, look, I don't mean to shit on anybody who is doing it. There probably are guys out there doing it. There's a crew in Toronto for sure, but you know, they tend to be more city centric. When you get that DJ who's doing it, they tend to want to play their homies shit. So being out here in the middle of fucking nowhere, I'm just like, okay, well, I'm gonna listen to everything and play what I actually like. You know, I don't know any of these fucking guys. Some of them I've met now, right? Yeah, I guess I'm somewhere. Third largest city in Alberta, right? But, you know, now I'm starting to meet some of these guys, and I'm realizing that, like, yo, these are all just a bunch of 30-somethings like I am, making music for therapy. They're just putting this music out in a little bit more of an organized way, you know. And there's different levels of it too. Some guys don't give a fuck, and they're just putting it onto Spotify. And then some guys are putting it through independent labels to release. You know, they get it onto Han Solo, or they get it onto whichever little independent label. There's one out of Halifax. Black Buffalo has been putting out a ton of dope independent artists. So. Yeah, man, I just have been watching the entire game across the country and just trying to pick up the moves, trying to see how everybody else is doing it, and having fun talking to people, because they're all good people. When you meet people, you know, when you meet artists and it's like, oh, this is good people. Like, I can tell that this is a person who I could make music with or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody I've talked to, it's like I talk to them for 10 minutes and it's like, oh, I know this guy already. You know what I mean?
I remember once upon a time, I had a studio with Buddy, and we used to get homies come in.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, yo, what's up, man? And I'm like, where are you from?
I mean, we say yo sometimes. Come on.
No, but these guys...
No, but I know what you're saying.
They even had accents.
Yeah, word.
And like, hey,
There's levels to it, man.
so I met a lot of savory characters when I had us running a studio, and it was just funny. I mean, but it's weird. Like the guys that did pay us, the, sorry to say, but they were always the drug dealers.
Yeah,
They always paid us.
that's who has expendable money, right?
But the guys that actually wanted to make music, they didn't have any money, man. And I felt so bad because I was like, fuck, man, we got to pay rent here. We got to pay this.
Dude, you know what it is?
For
It's
free.
exactly. But the only people with money to spend making music, and especially back then when it would have been an hourly rate to get in a studio, are people with no kids, no responsibilities. You know what I mean? Typically. Or the ones who like have fucking won the lottery or whatever. They got a horseshoe up their ass. They got a rich wife or something, like myself. Like I just, some of us luck out, I guess. But there's only so many reasons why somebody has time to make music, and
brother, this is 100% true. And you know what? Going back to what you were just saying with the expendable money.
Yeah.
I just finished watching the Wu-Tang series on Disney.
Dude, it's so good, eh?
And you watch the story and you're like, all these guys were drug dealers. And you're like, what?
No, they weren't. Not all of them.
No,
RZA wasn't, right?
There was the main dudes,
yeah,
like
sure.
like the RZA's brother,
Ghost and Ray, yeah.
They were selling drugs, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and the funding for it, for sure. Yeah, Divine and yeah.
And then when you think about hip hop, like when I hear about stuff like that, the first thing that comes to my mind is Master P. Now this guy, and I read there's a documentary on this guy. This guy sold so much freaking crack that's how he started his studio. That's how he started his label. That's how he got everything going, was with that money.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable.
You didn't think all of these guys were pretending, right? I mean,
well, no.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like you said, you've been around enough to see it in real life. That
you kind of,
who has money to record rap music? Guys who sell drugs. I mean,
oh well. I mean,
a lot of the time, right?
I gotta admit, I took some of that money. Sorry, I had to live.
Yeah,
it's life, right? So, but now I don't do that anymore. I mean, shit, that was 20 years ago, man. 25 years ago.
Well, and it's not like you're the first guy. That's the entire roots of it are built off of people whose reality was that, right? That was the only way that they saw to make money, I guess. So yeah. I mean,
so you got any closing questions? Or
yeah, let me ask you one or two more just straight up questions here. Oh no, that one that we were just talking about. How do you balance work and art? How do you find time to make art over the years? And knowing what you know now, what would you recommend for people trying to do it?
Okay, the only thing, because you got to remember, I'm 52. I'm a senior.
Not yet. So you don't get the discount yet. Come on.
This is what life has become for me. Now that I'm in this age and I've got all this stuff, it boils down to 100% routine and how much drive you have. Like right now, I got a job. I work 4 days a week, but I got to work the 10s to make the 40 a week. So right now on my schedule, I do get Saturday, Sunday, Monday off. So today's Monday, it's my day off. And lately, my homie's been coming over. We've been putting scratches on his music. And that's kind of the routine I've had for a little bit. But as to make beats for myself, I need a specific setting. I need to sit in my living room with my sampler. I need to have the TV on. I need to have the cat meowing. It's a mind thing. I used to be able to sit in my basement, and my basement, it's pretty dusty and dark. I used to be able I used to be able to sit down here, make beats, but now I mean, because like you moved away, a lot of people stopped making music. I don't really contact or have contact with a lot of these hip hop people like I used to. Because everybody's doing their life. Everybody had kids. Everyone got married. Blah
Yeah,
blah
but
blah.
everybody's always doing their life, man. You and I are doing our lives until we message each other too, right? Like,
That's right.
I think there's probably still plenty of people who would be happy to make some music with you. I don't know.
Oh, most definitely. But
Yeah.
once again, it's the routine. It's how do you?
Right.
Because this guy has time here, but I have time here, so it doesn't. It's hard to coordinate
But
because when someone
the
does have
whole
a date,
home studio thing, everybody with our own home studios, we don't even need to coordinate at this
that's
point.
right.
Right.
But then it comes down to the point where they just don't give a fuck.
There you go. Yeah. Well, and where, if anything gets backburnered, it's art, right? I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in many other people's lives throughout the years, different artists I've been around. When shit hits the fan, you stop making music.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's you've just had a kid, you've just got married, you've just broken up.
Right.
Various things can cause guys to just, well, I've got to stop making music for a while now, right? So, I don't know. Like, I know that through different, like you once told me that when I was coming over on a weekly basis, there was like some of the most you'd recorded with
Yeah.
anybody, right?
Yeah.
Was that just circumstance? Was that just like we happened to meet each other at the right time and could line up
Yeah.
that Wednesday night for that to work?
But that's also because I needed to get back into hip hop. I needed to saturate myself because before I met you and all this, I was kind of wasn't really doing nothing. I was kind of bored. I had no desire.
Weird.
And then when I heard about this, the hip hop book, I'm like, hey, that's kind of I'm kind of in. I want to meet some hip hop people, some different hip hop people,
Yeah.
not the people that I've always worked with. Because man, it's how do you say? I mean,
I think I fit the bill as different hip hop people. That's
right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, we made good hip hop. Your rhymes are awesome, brother.
Thanks,
I've
man.
always loved your rhymes.
Thanks,
you know,
man.
and I
Happy
mean-
to rap anytime.
And then rewind everything to now. I've been doing this. I've been this club, I guess you want to call it. It's called the Scratcher.
Yeah, shouts to Scratcher. I talked to Baggy about Scratcher
Right.
last year, just before that contest you won, actually.
The Scratcher. There's lots of chapters in all the provinces, and I think there's even some in the States. So I've been involved in that, and they do that once a month here at this one club, the Black Dog on the basement. And I try to go every month, but like last month and the month before, I didn't go. But I went just a little while ago. At the end of the month, I went, and it was
Right.
just me and Baggy. It was just me and Baggy. But then other guys showed up. They were there for about an hour, and then they left. But see, like that's pretty much the only thing I've been doing is getting together once a month with these guys and just scratching, and then that's about it. And then
Yeah.
in my free time, homie comes over, we make some music, we make some scratches, we go to Deeswax's house, he masters it, done.
Yeah.
And
nice.
now I guess the last thing to do is start sending it to you. But I'm the king procrastinator.
Well, send it to me, but also send it to Spotify. We
that
can,
right?
yeah, we can talk off air. It's super easy, man. There's one or two different sites. You send it to them, and then they send it to iTunes and Spotify and everywhere else. And it's
What about all the samples
drop
that
down.
I use?
Like I said, man, don't worry about it.
I use samples that you're going to be like, I have that record.
Unless, dude, you're not gonna blow up. It's just
This is true. But
the
I have,
odds
but
of
what
anybody
makes me
ever
nervous-
caring are pretty slim, I think.
You know what makes me nervous? I have this one song I made, and it's from I took all the samples from the Slick Rick Lottie Dottie.
Okay.
And it because I read about this song in the hip hop world. To get this song on anybody's rap song that gets pressed, you're paying top dollar for anything that Slick Rick said.
I mean,
So,
like I
kind of
said, man, like I'm hearing all sorts of people, and I'm like, they got Jay-Z's voice on this record. Like he had a skit specifically saying, "Don't you put my fucking voice on your record," you know, or "I'm coming for everything you've got." I think was what he says on one of his. I don't know what album, but yeah, I've heard Jay-Z yell about that. Like,
if
I don't think anybody cares.
So I guess it won't matter then if I do it.
I mean, what I can't. Hey, this isn't legal advice to you or to anybody else who might be watching this online at any point. But what I can say is that I see a whole lot of people with a whole lot of samples that I can't imagine how they would have paid for. So there may be a limit to it. Maybe you're right if you fucking have sampled 33 seconds worth of la-di-da-di. You know, it might flag some copyright infringement algorithm or whatever, but from what I've seen, there's a lot of people with a lot of samples that probably shouldn't be being released. And I'm not going to name anybody specifically because I don't believe in sample snitching. But there's a whole. The thing is once you get big enough, do you know the websites that tell you who sampled that or whatever? Like, there's a website, I think I just said it, and I don't even want to fucking say it again because it's sample snitching bullshit that I don't believe in. But there is a website out there where you can go and see where every sample on every song is from, right? Yeah. And people compete to be the guy that says, "Oh, I recognize that sample. I'm so fucking cool," and then they fucking snitch it out to the internet, and that's where Warner's lawyer fucking goes to hit people with copyright infringements. That's where, you know, the various different. So once you're big enough that you're on who sampled it or whatever, fucking then like you're in a ballpark where it might matter, where you might get hit with a cease and desist to take it down or whatever. But
you know what?
Even then, unless you've made money off of it, all they're going to do is tell you to take it down. This, by my understanding, this is again not legal advice. But
speaking of samples, because I was telling you, I just saw the Wu-Tang series.
Yeah,
I don't know. Is it okay for me to tell you what sample they used?
On Wu-Tang stuff, it's all going to be out there anyways, okay, and it'll all be paid for because they've made millions of dollars off of it.
So check this out. I don't know if many people know this, and I'm going to be a snitch.
But I'm snitching.
But that's because this song came out in '93. This was on their first album.
I mean, I bet it's all broke down, unless it's some big secret. I don't know.
2023 now, so it should be okay to mention it because I mean I'm a sample head. I that's my job.
Well, and chances are, you know, we get a few hundred views on this at max, and
so
it won't matter.
The Wu-Tang have this one song. It's called it starts out Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. Oh
yeah.
So anyways, I was so curious when that song came out. What sample is it? And I never knew for years and years and years. Well, shit, lo and behold, the internet came out. And around 2005, I think, I managed to find out what sample they used for that song at the beginning. And believe it or not, it's the intro to the cartoon, The Underdog.
Okay. All right.
Because if you hear the beginning of the
Did they slow it down or something?
Yeah, man, a lot.
Yeah.
But the beginning of the Underdog says, "There's no need to fear. The underdog is here." And the only place I've ever heard that sample was at the beginning of Schoolie D. PSK. What does it mean? It starts out with, "There's no need to fear." And you're like, or no, is it? Am I think? Oh, I'm thinking of another song. Sorry, I've been smoking all day here, so
all good.
Kind of getting my facts mixed up.
I forgive you for mixing up your Schoolie D samples. So that's a deep cut there, man. To even.
No, I'm thinking of another song. Sorry, the Schoolie D sample I wanted to tell you was The Adventures of Flash Gordon.
Okay.
But they took out the Flash Gordon and they just kept the Adventures of. But anyways, that's a famous another. I can go on forever.
Wait,
His
yeah.
interviews could last forever. Ha ha ha. What's
dude,
your final question there, brother?
final question. Well, there's two of them. This I ask absolutely everybody. So I got to ask you, and we've had countless discussions about it over the years, but can you describe the Edmonton rap scene? I leave it open-ended for people. So, I mean, for you could describe it then and now or whatever, man. Do however you want to. In general,
it's pretty much like this here. I'm not in the scene.
Here, let me hit you with one more preface. This is interesting. Our friend Kaz Mega, when I asked him this, or maybe it wasn't even in a response to this specific question, but at some point when I talked to Kaz last year, Kaz mentioned that he thinks Edmonton is in the runnings, and you can make the argument that it's the best rap city in Canada. So, you know, now I pass the microphone back to you.
Well, see, I have an answer as to why that could be. It's because
I agree with him, by the way.
Like I told you, I started breakdancing in 80, 84. And pretty much that's when hip hop arrived in Edmonton, pretty much on TV and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And even at that time, there was guys rapping right away. Some guys were breaking, some guys were DJing, some guys were graffitiing. And I knew a lot of guys that did graffiti and they were into hip hop. I knew a lot of guys that were breakdancing, they were into hip hop. I didn't know that many guys that were into music at that time because I was strictly into breakdancing. So that being said, all the rap music I ever heard, all the hip hop I ever heard, well, it came from everywhere. It came from LA, it came from Texas, it came from New York, it came from everywhere. It came from Spain, it came from Europe, it came from everywhere. So as I got older, you hear the New York stuff and you think the New York guys, they grow up just listening to their own shit. So it's specific. But because we were up in Canada, man, we hear everything. We heard everything that came out. Like when we got hip hop, at the same time, the LA guys got hip hop probably just a year before us, because they were really into this. What do you call it? Music like the G funk. There was a lot of that going around because of the old artists that came up in LA and the West Coast and whatnot. I mean, I'm not 100% on that history, but the history I can tell you is how I heard it living here. Like when I first heard Dr. Dre, we heard this one song called World Class Wrecking Crew.
Yeah.
And it had
wasn't that the name of his group?
Yes.
Or was that a track name too?
So the group was called World Class Wrecking Crew. The song was called World Class. And you can find it on YouTube. It's on YouTube. But when I first heard it, the beats were unbelievable. And unbeknownst to me, because I didn't know, those drums came from a DMX. So it had a different sound because a lot of guys were using the SP12.
You mean like that rapper who barks a lot, right? Rest in peace.
Yeah, but
I'm just joking. I think a lot of people won't recognize that a DMX is a sampler.
It is.
What company makes it? Do you know?
It's made by the Oberheim company.
Oberheim. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So they had a DX and a DMX.
Okay.
And then the SP12. Then they made the SP1200. And those are famous samplers. But like I said, the story is this. I would hear some of my homies would go to LA and bring back mixtapes. And I'd hear them and I'm like, damn, these guys are fucking crazy. Because at that time, they would speed everything up. Didn't matter. Didn't matter if it was 90 beats per minute, they'd speed it up super fast and beat mix it incredible. And you're like, wow, what a scene. So it's like I heard this. Then you hear that. Then you hear this guy. And then you hear this guy from. So I heard so many things back in the day. And then when much music came out, well, shit. And you started to have more visuals.
Right.
And you start kind of, and I think that's how we became, because we were so into it that we just searched it so much.
That makes sense, man. It's like I said about being in Lethbridge doing this hip hop show, that there is no local crew for me to, just only support those guys, right? I mean, there's shouts to the locals here. There's 10 of them or whatever who are dope. Like, but they're not the homies to the level where I'm gonna exclude everybody else to play their music all the time, right? And so, like, I pay, like you said, you end up paying attention to everything because there's no regional sound to pay attention to. You're listening to East Coast, West Coast, Southern, everything mixed together music.
Like, I'll just add on, for me, one of the guys that came out of Edmonton that I did actually hear on a mixtape that came out of New York was E-Dot.
E-Dot.
His name was E-Dot.
Okay.
E-D-O-T. E-Dot.
E-Dot.
I don't know what he goes by now.
I was going to say, I wonder what happened to him. Is he around? Okay.
Well, he was on the Ill Bill.
Okay.
He was with the Ill Bill.
Ill Bill's out there, right?
He was with Ill Bill label for a little bit.
That's like, what is it, La Coca Nostra and Slain and those guys. Yeah.
Right. And about 10 years back, I downloaded this mixtape off the internet. It was called, it was a Spanish hip hop mixtape called Acción Sanchez. And the beginning, like 10, 15 songs are all Spanish dudes, a lot of them from Spain, Puerto Rico, and whatnot. But after that, this E-Dot comes on. I'm like, I was amazed because, I mean, we used to hang out with this guy when we were young with Andre.
Yeah.
Because Andre knows these guys. And we used to hang out in the West End, in the 182. So it was funny but I mean, he moved to the States. And that's how he, because he wanted it. But he never blew up.
Word.
And so, yeah, you are right. There is a lot of dudes in Edmonton that are dynamite rappers. Dynamite.
Yeah.
But the marketing isn't there. The unification isn't there. There needs to be more unification. There needs to stop the hate. There needs to, like, hey, man, I'll help you. It can't all be about money. I mean, it's nice to get paid, but Edmonton needs to take off because
we need to take off and fly in formation, right? that's
the only thing.
That's how we do it.
The only thing that's left in this town is, like, everyone needs to come together. They need to make a song like "We Are the World."
Yeah,
but in hip hop.
Honestly, man, that's the reason that this show is called Fly in Formation, right? The whole fucking, we're Canadian. The Canadian geese are the things that famously fly in that V. The V makes it easier on everybody to fly. They rotate which one's in the lead, fucking breaking through the wind or whatever. It's the name for trying to bring this whole fucking scene together. That's what I try to do. So that's why I always ask people about their local scene.
That was a good question, brother.
Thanks, man. It was a good answer too. I was a little bit nervous going into there because I know you've had some mixed feelings about the scene over the years, but you know, I don't like starting beef on the show. I'm not trying to get the beef clicks or whatever. I like to promote unity and shit. So yeah.
I mean, I want to promote my album now. That's what I'm thinking of.
Word. So what is it called? When is it coming? Where can we find it?
What's it called? I'm so lazy. I don't even have my song's name.
Exactly. So those are write that on a whiteboard. Figure out those things. Get back to me, and I'll tell people about them.
I have the artwork done.
Okay, you got a cover for it? That's dope.
I do. I did that. I mean, I didn't do it. I got someone else to do it, but it's done.
Who did it?
So I can send you that and the songs, but I got to name the songs.
So, but if you have artwork, doesn't that mean you have the title for the album?
No, I didn't make that part.
What is the?
I just made the front cover.
What does the front cover say? What is it? What does it look like?
DJ Dice, and it's a cartoon picture of me, and you can see the Edmonton in the background.
Okay, nice. Who'd you get to do it? Can we shout the artist?
I got this guy. He used to come to Scratcher all the time because he used to live here, but he moved out to Sylvan Lake. So his name's Mark.
Okay.
He's a DJ. He's with the Scratcher community.
Dope.
So big up to Mark.
Nice.
I don't know his last name, but
no, we
can do another interview and I can have more stuff.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm always here to help people promote. So if you let me know those things, I'll let as many people listen to AtSick know it.
We do that then.
But I also ask people after they describe the scene, name an artist or two who people should be up on. So, I mean, you kind of just did with Mark and E. Dot there, but is there anybody else that you feel like is doing cool things in the Edmonton hip hop scene right now that deserves a shout?
Well, that's a tough one because I'm not really in the scene. I haven't done shows since probably the last time I did a show with you.
Well, and we also, I mean, shouts to Thug Shells, shouts to Doobyis and that
but
crew,
that's what I
right?
was going to say. So right now, we hang out with Doobyis quite a bit. And one day he tells me, he goes, man, it'd be nice if you played instrumentals one day on the Thursday nights. And I was like, what is this? I don't know this. What are you talking about? Yeah. He goes, oh, they have rap night every second Thursday, and I'm like, oh. I was like, okay. So I put the things in motion, and I got myself a show with Thug Shells. And apparently, from what I can see right now, I mean, I'm not doing shows, but all I hear is Thug Shells this, Kelowna, Thug Shells,
she's busy. Yeah, she's popping. Like
Thug Shells. So you know what?
Yeah.
And I met her. I never met her before, and I met her, and she's super nice.
Yeah.
And I tried to play the best boom bap I could, and a lot of the kids that were there, they were kind of surprised that I was playing some super, super deep underground instrumentals for them. And I got the impression they never heard this shit before. So, and that's pretty much. I've been on this now.
The cool thing about Thug Shells is that she is very busy out in the community in reality-based life, but she's also very active online. Her Twitch channel is much more popular than mine is. Like right now we're live on my Twitch channel or whatever. Anytime I go to her Twitch channel, she is freestyling to triple digits of viewers, like always triple digits of viewers. So
that's right, bro.
And she's dope. She deserves all the love she's getting. Like she can just freestyle, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. But the cool thing was that live show you did, I actually got to tune in on her Twitch and watch that go down. So I watched that from here in Lethbridge the night that was happening because I knew you were DJing it. So you know, again, we're in this era where the internet can bring everybody together on a level that is beyond what it could, you know.
No doubt, brother.
10, 20, 30 years ago for sure. So yeah, it's nice to see people coming together and supporting one another. Yeah, I hope you and Sean have a good session there, and I'm looking forward to hearing the music you're working on now, and I want to hear the album you've already made and all the other stuff you're doing with Doobyis all the time. Every time I talk to Deez, it seems like, you know, he's got one of you guys coming by or whatever. So yeah, peace to everybody up in Edmonton, and thanks for coming by to talk on this, man.
All right, brother.
All right, hell yeah, take it easy, dude.
Okay, man.
Yeah, see you, Sean. Peace. All right, so that was that, and that will be up on YouTube eventually. I'll go make some audio edits probably to it, and there was one part there where we had some audio problems, so I'll chop that out, but not much editing will need to be done. I keep these things pretty conversational, and there's no reason to make time limits for it, so why not? I had fun talking to Dice, and you know, getting 2 cents thrown in here and there from DVL as well, the devil. And yeah, if you like supporting local artists and content like this, make sure you check out After the Smoke is Clear. That's my weekly mix show where I'm playing hip-hop artists from across the country. Mixcloud.com/Doobyis. I won an award for the 2nd season of it. I don't just run around calling myself the best show in Canada. They called it that. I'm nominated again for season 3, and currently season 4 is 11 episodes in. I've been doing interviews. I'm talking to Spitty tomorrow on May 9th at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That'll be 5 Eastern Standard Time, so come by, and it'll be another interview like this. Probably not quite as long, because I'm just meeting Spitty, whereas DJ Dice I've known for years and years. So this was very impromptu for Flying Formation, but I had a good time doing it, and I think we dropped some gems. I think Dice is always going to be able to drop some gems when people ask him about hip-hop. So it's been my pleasure to do so. Thanks for coming by, everybody.